Bet the Breeders' Cup with the DRF app. The Daily Racing Form app is a highly rated, powerful tool that makes handicapping and wagering fast and easy, putting you in position to win big at the races. Register today to double your first deposit up to $250. Get the DRF app now.
Derick Giwner joined by Jay Bergman to discuss the Breeders' Crown at Harrah's Hoosier Park. We have two 15-race cards Friday and Saturday night. Jay's going to talk about the Friday night card with me. We picked out a couple of races, two of the Breeders' Crown events, starting with race number 10. It's the 2-year-old Colt and Gelding Trot. We have a field of 10 lined up. And Jay, is this a two-horse race between Captain Corey and Venerate?
Well, I mean, if they both mind their manners, absolutely. Venerate, when he's minded his manners, has been as good a 2-year-old as we've seen in some time. And Captain Corey, coming into last week's elimination, we thought he might be the best of a generation, and then he was kind of humbled last week.
Well, why don't we take a look at last week's action? We have the video of Venerate beating Captain Corey, and we're going to pick it up at the beginning of the race where they both leave the gate pretty well, but it looks like Oki's kind of content with sitting the pocket. Well,
I think that's something that we don't usually see from Oki, that he's actually not on the gate and not blasting ahead of people. But, we have to remember it was a $25,000 race, and this weekend we have a $600,000 race.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we're going to fast forward now to the stretch part of it. And, Oki's going to come out and take his shot here, but 125 and 1 3/4, I mean, it's unlikely he was going to gain and pass.
Well, I think the mile in itself was phenomenal. I mean, I don't know that he expected it. And I think that the difference between the two horses entering the race is that Venerate had much more experience going faster miles. And Captain Corey's, pretty much been out of action for nearly a month, a real action up until this race.
Mm-hmm. Before we go on to who we might pick in this race, just looking at a couple others that maybe have a shot. The 3 In Range was really good, winning his elimination last week, has been pretty good all year. 8 out of 9, first or second. Where do you put his chances?
I think when you draw a good spot like that, I think you always have a chance in races like this. And he's shown the versatility where he could leave the gate and get position. And I think, anyone who sees the race on paper as we do, 1-2 horses that can leave the gate, In Range is going to try to get away third and probably not do a whole lot and hope, something in front of him blows up, which, has happened in the past.
Another horse between just inside of Venerate and Captain Corey's On a Streak, who's shown some speed and has a stakes win and the Wellwood on his card. Could Luke Blaze get this one home?
I'm a little suspect there. I mean, I was a little disappointed with what some of Luke's horses looked like last week. I mean, certainly Donna Soprano looked nothing like she did when we saw her in Canada early this year. So, I mean, I think On a Streak had one night where, he really stood out, and that was the Wellwood. But I think he's going to have to show himself to be a better horse than he was then.
Where are you going? Are you on the Venerate or the Captain Corey bandwagon in this one?
I'm on the Venerate bandwagon only because, there's a couple of things that happened last. I mean, I'm on the Captain Corey bandwagon, I should say. He was just an unbelievably good-looking animal that just looked like he could do anything. I thought he was very uncomfortable last week on both turns. He had a boot problem in the stretch. I just think there was something not 100% about the horse last week. And given the stakes on this Friday night, obviously, and Aki's ability to get a horse primed for one big race, I mean, I have to think that the equipment will be better. I think the horse's manners will be better. He was throwing his tail the entire race. I just don't think the horse was ever settled, and I don't think Aki drove him, hard to the wire. I think you'll see a different horse, and I don't think he's just going to give up the lead. I think he'll have the lead in the first turn as opposed to giving it up.
I'm in 100% agreement here. I went with Captain Corey as well. I just feel like this was the main goal all year long. They skipped Lexington for this. They didn't try for the Mohawk Million for this. This was the goal. This is the one race they want to win, and I think you're going to see a much better horse. Listen, if Venerate comes with some unbelievable effort, yeah, he's going to be tough, but I think Captain Corey will get the job done, and we're going to move on to the next race we have lined up here, which is race 12 on Friday night. It's the 2-year-old Philly Pace, and for my money, this could be one of the best Breeders' Crown races we have. It's wide open.
I couldn't agree more, Derick. I mean, I think that with the division leader, test of faith, not eligible for this year's Breeders' Crown, it's left the door wide open. And I think, the finishes last week were indicative of, I think, what we're going to see on Friday night.
Why don't we take a look at some of those finishes? We'll start with the race won by Continual Lou, who was 92-1 when she wins this race. And we have Firestart Hanover is going to be on the lead, and Continual Lou is going to come and get her.
Well, I think it was just a rare situation here at Hoosier where there was really no pace. The horse just sat, and it was an eighth of a mile sprint. And clearly, Continual Lou's eighth of a mile sprint was better than Firestart Hanover's. But, as you can see, right near the wire is when she got up. And I think Firestart put in a pretty good race as well.
And it's worth noting that, especially on Friday night, there was a really strong wind up the backstretch. So any horse that was on the lead was taking quite a bit of air.
Absolutely, and I think the fillies in general, I think it's a little tough. That long stretch sometimes wears them out. And like I said, it was really late in the mile where Firestart started getting a little weak, and I think you got to give her some credit for that.
We're going to take a look at the other limb, the second limb, and this one was won by JK Always Be a Lady, who basically just wore them down in deep stretch. I mean, Notorious Pink went a pretty big mile on the lead.
Absolutely, and I thought that the JK Always Be a Lady looked very vulnerable at the three-quarter pole. She looked like she was keeping up with Coverall, and even here in the late stretch, you see driver Giwner is really going to work on her. But the character of the filly came out. I mean, she made up a length in the last 50 yards, and that was a big win.
I mean, we talk about how wide open this race is. One of the horses, who's going to be more of a long shot, but was a favorite when you look back a couple of maybe a month or a month and a half ago, was Caveat Ardrey. She was really up on the bit in her limb. She looked like she was raring to go and completely flat in the stretch. I spoke to Nancy Tactor about it. She said that she flipped the palate and she had an upper airway infection. She gave me a couple of reasons why maybe the horse didn't perform that well. Can this horse turn it around?
I would say she already did turn it around. She's going in the wrong direction. I think she showed that in Canada. She wasn't the horse that we saw her in baby races, and come back here. I know she was unmanageable, appeared unmanageable, but it's hard to say that she wasn't going full out. And she had some rough races. That the final in Canada of the She's a Great Lady. She really had to work very hard in that race, and I think that might have taken something out of her.
Another horse who raced really nicely in the JK Always Be a Lady win was Scarlet Hanover, who kind of maybe a little under the radar, was up in Canada, won the She's a Great Lady, but no one knows about it because she didn't win it.
Well, I mean, it was a horrible DQ. I mean, if you're Andy McCarthy, it was a really tough thing, but it was what it was. I mean, things did get tight in the stretch, and he did try to find some room. So but the filly herself, I mean, just rock solid every time out there, and you saw that grit again last week. And as you said, in a race where there's so many contenders, you like to have a horse that's got grit, and she's definitely got that.
Well, I kind of got a sneak preview of your pick, so you're going to tell us why you like Blue Diamond Eyes, number 6.
Well, I've been listening to a lot of trainers and a lot of drivers this year when they talk about 2-year-olds and the long season. And, I've just watched this filly when she's good. She's usually on or near the lead. I think there was some intent in the second, I think it was the second week in Lexington where she raced from behind, was good finishing, not extraordinary. Again, you have test of faith in there. And now you go last week. I mean, I just think they were out for a training trip last week. She just wanted to be in the final, and she finished. And you look at the drivers and you say, well, David Miller drove Continual Lou in his elimination, and she won, and he's driving the horse that didn't win the elimination. Well, I think he knows what he's sitting on. I think he knew last week what he's sitting on, and I just think that $600,000. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah, listen, I said it's a wide open race, so I didn't really want to land on 3-1 morning line and Firestart Hanover, but I really don't see these being one of the 3-1 morning lines that go off 8-5. She might go off 7-2 in this race. That's how open it is. I felt like she raced into the wind. She raced rather well, I thought. And I really feel like on a more even track where, there's 6 wire-to-wire winners instead of 3 maybe on the card because of the win, that she'll put in a much better effort. But that being said, I really like Scarlett Hanover. I think she could be a player. Notorious Pink, if she would have drawn inside, I probably would have picked her. I mean, that mile Notorious Pink put in last week, it was probably the best mile as far as I'm concerned of any of these, but post 9 is really tough at Hoosier.
Well, I think especially in this race, I mean, it's going to require, either an all-out abandonment at the start of the race or, 2 moves somehow to get in position. And like I said, when they're evenly matched like this, you don't want to get involved in making too many moves. And, as far as Fire Start Hanover is concerned, I mean, I don't know. It's hard just to review a filly off of Lexington races because they are kind of different. She had things worked out fairly well. Seemed like she was primed for Lexington. And I'm just, a lot of the other fillies a little bit more seasoned. And, I think this is obviously the biggest test of her career.
Well, we looked at a couple of races from Friday. I figured since I picked these 2, I figured I'd give you the opportunity to say if there's another race you're looking forward to or a horse you really like on Friday or Saturday.
On Saturday night, I like a long shot. I've been watching Crystal Fashion for the last maybe 4 or 5 starts, and he's been like an also-ran, but an also-ran that's actually raced good and finished well. And I thought his last race at Lexington, I thought he was very, very sharp finishing. And I know he drew the 9-hole, and sometimes that's his problem, but I think he's shown speed in many other big races in the past from the outside. And I think the kind of speed he's got, he can get out there 3rd, 2nd, maybe in the early stages and get the kind of trip that's necessary. I think Chimpanzee, I don't know, the long stretch is in his favor. Atlanta, she's been beaten at this track in the long stretch. So obviously when Atlanta gets the cover she needs, I think she's extraordinary. I think she's an incredible mare. I just think they're going to mix it up a little bit here. And I think Crystal Fashion, because of his early speed, just might be in position to pick these things off. And 20-1 was very intriguing to me.
Well, that's race 14 on Saturday for Crystal Fashion, post position number 9. 2 15 race cards Friday and Saturday night at Harrah's Hoosier. They start at 6 o'clock. There's a couple of $20,000 guaranteed pick 4s and a $40,000 guaranteed pick 4. I know Jay will be watching all the action. I will be as well. Best of luck.
Bet the Breeders' Cup with the DRF app. The Daily Racing Form app is a highly rated, powerful tool that makes handicapping and wagering fast and easy, putting you in position to win big at the races. Register today to double your first deposit up to $250. Get the DRF app now.